You know, life can be so complicated sometimes. And sometimes people feel like, they have no place to go, no refuge, and no one to turn to for help. And then it's like this. It ends badly like this. Sometimes it's just jealousy. Sometimes it's someone being overly possessive of another person, feeling like they own that other person, and the other person's life must go how they have it scripted for it to go. Welcome back to SouFLoTV again, everybody. It is your host with the most. Leave your comments in the comment section below, but make sure you listen good to the entire story first. This story is about a Jamaican man and a British woman who are both highly accomplished individuals living the good life in the UK, and the whole family was wiped out by this Jamaican man. All right. So according to the Daily Mail OK in the UK, the husband of the head of Epsom College, who police believe shot her and their daughter dead before killing himself, had only just moved into their new home. He's the husband, and his wife had just got a prestigious position as the first female head of a college named Epsom College. He had just moved into their new home. The family had been living apart for quite some time, a few months, but I will explain to you why they were living apart and all that. You need to listen to the story. So George Pattison is his name. He was 39 years old. He had 3 weeks ago been living separately with them in their old 1.5 million pounds property in a place called Caterham as the sales went through. So if you're wondering why they were living apart, it was because they were selling their old house, moving into their new house. But the wife and the daughter had already gone ahead and moved over into the new house and left George at the old house. It was a deal that they made that he would stay at the whole old house and they would keep it occupied, so he could show it to potential buyers on a regular basis until they got somebody who would stick through it and all that. And I know that could have been done by a realtor, but he's a shrewd businessman. He obviously wanted to cut out a realtor and do it himself. So he stayed at the property and kept the property up, kept the lights on and all that other stuff. And his wife went ahead and moved. The location his wife moved to, as you will see in one of these pictures that's provided in the slides for this story, their new home is conveniently right next to the college where she will now be the first female head of that college. Neighbors say that they had been going in between the house and the property at Epsom before the keys were handed over to the new owners last month. Now, it was only then that he moved into the Grace and Favor home with his wife, Emma, and their daughter, Letty. Letty was 7 years old. So he stayed at the house until they sold it. And once the house was sold, then he moved forward into the new home with his wife and his daughter. He had only been living at the new home with his wife and his daughter for 3 weeks. When end of 3 weeks came murder, massacre, and mayhem, my friend. But after Sunday morning, she made a distressed call to her sister, Deborah Kirk. She was asking Deborah, please, like something is really, really wrong, which prompted her sister to jump into her car and hurry up and drive over to their new house, to George and his wife's new house. Record shows that George also made a distressing call to his family, who jumped in their car and drove over there as well. Well, when everybody got to the house, it was a gruesome scene. They arrived too late, and they discovered that her body, as well as George's body as well as Letty, the 7-year-old, their daughter, body was all there, dead. Police says that Mr. Patterson, the Jamaican-born man, seems to have shot his wife and their child dead before turning the gun on himself in the early hours of Sunday morning. Now, listen, he didn't use a small caliber gun. He used a shotgun. There are many rumors surrounding this story. One rumor says, and notice I said rumor because it still has not been confirmed the exact cause of conflict that led to this. One rumor says that Letty was not his, and he found out that his daughter, his 7-year-old daughter, is not his biologically, so which would mean that his wife had an affair and gave him a child that was not his, him get a jacket. The next one is saying that she was pressuring him to give up his business and move and start over, and he was very successful at what he did. And if you notice where they moved to, the new home that she found, or they found, it was right next to Epsom College, where she would be this historic person, the first female head ever of that college. Big move, right? That was the other one. And the third one was that he was in financial strains and up over his head in bills and knew no other way out other than to take his family out and himself. You can go with whichever one you choose. None of them have been confirmed as yet. They're still investigating. So the Surrey police had referred itself to the independent watchdog over the triple shooting after it emerged that they had been in touch with Mr. Patterson just days before. Surrey police had called him days before. Apparently, he had a licensed shotgun. He was a licensed shotgun holder for many years, and he used it for hunting and stuff like that, small game hunting, whatever. So the officers had called him to check on the storage of his firearm, but they did not visit his premises. They have a rule, and the regulation says that the owner of a licensed gun must call them and update your address as soon as you move. Well, it had been 3 weeks since he had moved to his new address, and he had not called the gun regulation people to tell them of his new address. So they called him. Hey, what's going on? We heard that you sold the house and moved over to a new address in a new part of town. Where's the call, right? Although Mr. Patterson moved into although Mistress Patterson, his wife, moved into the new home when she started her job last September, the family only handed over the keys to their old house just a few weeks ago, after the sales went through of the house. It was suggested by them, it was a deal that they made, that Mr. Patterson, the Jamaican-born man, had continued to live at the family's previous address for months after his wife took up their new home, because she was going to be this female head of Epsom. So yes, they were living apart. Neighbors in the area, when they were asked if they saw anything, the neighbors said they never saw Mrs. Patterson. They never saw their daughter anymore. And they hadn't seen them since last summer. But Mr. Patterson, they know, had been spending time at the property. They said, we didn't talk to him, he didn't talk to us, but we did see his car, and we did see the lights on in the front room at the house. They sold that property for £1.5 million, and that deal went through smoothly, and then he was supposed to move in to their other home now that they had purchased, and he did, right? £1.5 million. Now, one said, I could see the lights on in the evenings and his car was around, but we never saw her anymore. Last night, Zoe Roberts, a teacher at the Catherham School where her friend Mrs. Patterson also used to teach before she got the new position as the head of the Epsom College, that teacher said, "It's so tragic. And we wish this had never happened. You know, she was just a beautiful person inside and out. She was just the most wonderful person. We just can't put into words at this moment. This is too raw. We are still working it out. This is just a tragic loss." A former neighbor added and said, "I was sure if anybody had actually moved out. I wasn't sure if anybody had actually moved out because I'd seen George quite recently. I saw him in even the run up to Christmas. He was around at the property." Right? So they weren't sure. They thought the family, some of them thought the family was still there. They were just a low key set of people who really didn't mix with anybody else. He was by himself all the time. Emma and Letty, they were not with him. His BMW 8 Series was parked in the driveway all the time. Emma, she drove a 4x4, but I had not seen that 4x4 in a while. In fact, the last time I spoke to Emma was just before she got the job at Epsom College, because she was telling me how she had just got it and she was going to become the head teacher of this big prestigious school, which I thought was wow. They're both highly accomplished people, very intelligent people, highly educated people, very successful people. I hadn't seen her nor her daughter since that day, and that must have been earlier, like last summer. I think she moved out before George did. Well, that's a neighbor's account. Police records now shows that, yes, she and the daughter did move out months before George did. He stayed at that property for about 4 or 5 months until the property sold. And he had only moved into the new house 3 weeks before this shooting took place. The new owners arrived about 3 weeks or so ago, and just before they moved in, a removal firm had taken away the last remaining bits of furniture that were belonging to Emma and George from the house. It was George who personally handed the keys over to the estate agents. I think he had been flitting, like going between the house and the property, the new property where his family had moved to. Mr. Patterson, the Jamaican-born man, he incorporated the management consultant agency Tanglewood, for which he was the sole director in 2016. That was his business. He incorporated it in 2016. The name of his business was a management consultancy firm named Tanglewood. Accounts for the year ending October 31st of 2021 showed that Mr. Patterson had been out a director's loan. He took out a director's loan, and the director's loan was £14,000 and 76 pence. And the land registry document shows a mortgage was taken out on the family home in Catherham in January of 2022. 8 years after they had bought the property, they took out a mortgage for around £600,000. That makes no sense. 8 years after you had bought the property, you took out a mortgage for £600,000. There were a lot of people that said he had multiple luxury cars, and they just thought he was doing really well in business and all that. Sources told the Mail that there were no grounds for suspicion over Mr. Patterson, as he had no criminal past and he had held his firearm license for many years. Some people might ask, how the hell do you get to take out a £600,000 loan? Well, they had a house, and the house was worth £1.75 million. So, yeah. The only time police are known to have been called to that family's home, That police call came around 2016, according to records, over accusation that Mr. Patterson himself had made against his wife. It wasn't the other way around. You know, usually in a relationship, when the police gets called, it's the man that's in there beating the woman, or the woman is feeling in fear of her life and she calls the police. Somebody get him out of here because I think he's going to hurt me and hurt the kids or whatever. Well, 2016, the same year that he incorporated his business, police was called to their house. And that's the only thing they have on record. Now, when the police came to the house, it was a complaint from him against his wife. He phoned the police complaining that she had slapped him. They were arguing and she physically assaulted him. It is understood that he regretted making that phone call and he downplayed it as a trivial matter when officers arrived, claiming that he didn't realize that what would happen, because the police came and the police were like, listen, we're out here. You're telling us that she physically assaulted you. So we're going to have to press charges. Right. And he was like, no, because he understood the ramifications. She was somebody that was working her way up in life as well. And if she had any kind of criminal behavior on her record, physical assault, all that, you could see how that could prevent her from becoming the head of a college, which she accomplished that job years later down the road, right? It's just like if a person is going through nursing school right now and then they have a situation of domestic violence, child abuse that came up and it's proven by law and it's on paper on their record. When it comes time to become a nurse, when it comes time to, you can go through nursing school, fine. But when it comes time to be state certified, to get your license to practice as a nurse, you will not be able to do it because that right there will be on your record, right? A convicted child abuser. You cannot be a nurse. So it's the same thing. And he decided, listen, I'm going to downplay it. It's not that serious. I really didn't understand like what would happen when you guys came, according to what the police said. Sorry, police did take the matter seriously though, and the Mail understands that Mistress Patterson was interviewed under caution with a solicitor or a lawyer present. The case was dropped because her husband would not cooperate. So although he was trying to tell them like, listen, you can just leave, it's okay, I'll take it from here, they wouldn't. They took it seriously. And he just decided to not cooperate with them. Officers confirmed that the gun that was registered and licensed to Mr. Patterson was recovered from the head teacher's residence after the killing. They stated that their phone call with him over his change of address days before was just a routine communication. Hey, where's your gun? You know, we heard that you moved. You haven't notified us. Are you going to come in sometime soon or, you know, do the natural paperwork, the necessary paperwork? So the police statement said due to the short period of time between that contact and this incident, we have made a referral to the Independent Office for Police Conduct, or the IOPC. The force said that the incident was now being treated as a homicide investigation. The exact cause of the deaths, which have been reported to the local coroner, will not be examined until post-mortem examinations have been carried out. So once the post-mortem examinations are carried out, they will go ahead and release cause of death and all that other information. Officers are now trying to piece together the exact chronological or chronology of events, timestamp leading up to the event. They remain confident that there is actually no third-party involvement, and their original assessment of the situation is that this Jamaican-born man took the life of himself, but he took the life of his daughter and his wife in the process. Detective Chief Inspector Kimball Eddy said that we are cooperating fully with the IOPC in relation to the referral that we have made, and we await the outcome of its assessment of what further actions may be required. Inspector John Vale, Epsom and Eswell Borough Commander, said that the force was confident that the incident was contained to one address only and there's no risk to the wider public. So there isn't anybody out here that's running around shooting up and killing people and just executed a whole family and is on the loose that we have to go look for some serial killer or something. We're pretty sure that it was him that did this to his family and himself. A spokesperson for the IOPC said that we have received a referral from Surrey Police about an incident in Epsom on February 5th as an officer of the force had contacts with Mr. Patterson just last week. We are assessing the available information to determine what, if any, further action may be required from us. So even they're looked at as the firearms regulating authority. They have strict rules. So the short time period between when he should have notified them that he moved and the time it took for them to get in touch with him, they're pretty much looking at that like, hey, we might have to take some measures against the firearm licensing authority, or maybe not. Now, George Patterson, the Jamaican-born man, he was known as a fast car loving chartered accountant. He loved fast cars. He had multiple luxury fast cars, right? He was born in Kingston, Jamaica, and he married to Mrs. Patterson in 2011. In the wake of the apparent murder-suicide, the school announced that it would shut down for 2 weeks. And school shut down and went on vacation for 2 weeks. Parents were notified of this decision. They all agreed to it. They said that it was traumatic. It was heavy. You know, being Jamaican and listening to all this or looking at all this, school teachers get killed. In Jamaica, students get killed on campus. School does not stop. It continues. In the UK, a headmistress gets killed and school shuts down for 2 weeks so everybody can grieve and process what happened, find some outside help if they have to, and then come back. Paul Williams, who is the acting head now, said that it was time for families to come together and try to process this shocking news. The shock and the horror of the past few days have been unprecedented. The impact on our children cannot be underestimated, and we're doing everything we can to support them in whatever way we need to. And they shut school down because they feel that the impact on the children was that significant. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Tell me what you think about this one. I'll catch you on the next video. It's Hot Topics. Hot Topics TV. Hot Topics TV is my other channel on YouTube. This is SouFLoTV. Okay. You can hit that subscribe button, and I'll catch you on the next one. Before I go, I'll say this: people go through a lot of stuff all the time, and sometimes when people have nothing or no one to speak to about their troubles, they take them out in weird ways. Right? That's it. Some people are soft. As in, not weak, not anything bad, just that some people are not built for pressure. You understand? He took out a $600,000 extra mortgage against their house 8 years after they purchased the house. And that $600,000, I'm questioning, what was it for? Where did it go? You heard them say he had a few luxury cars, and he was, people thought he was making good money. He had a successful business, so that's where his money was coming from. Was he living above his means, draining his family's resources? Him and his wife were fighting about it behind the scenes, and he had a troubled mind regardless, and eventually ended up doing this. We don't know. I'll talk to y'all later. Sad all the way around, especially with a child involved who lost her life, probably has no clue why what happened to her happened to her. I'm out. Peace.